We are opening up the files today to explore the knowledge you need on a figure whose career, really, it spans the entire history of Australian broadcast media.
Yes.
We're talking about Albert Watson Newton, AM, MBE.
Or as he was, affectionately known for 60 years, just Bert Newton.
Household name.
Absolutely. And we're focusing on a really comprehensive body of source material today that details the life and work of a man who was, without any question, a foundational figure in Australian culture.
When you look at his timeline, it's just astounding.
It is. His professional trajectory kicked off in 1951, and it ran continuously right through to 2015. I mean, that's a truly amazing period of unbroken visibility.
We've compiled a lot of information covering, well, everything, from his earliest days in radio through his immense and varied television career, his later celebrated stage work,
Right.
the honors he accumulated, and of course the significant personal challenges he had to overcome.
And our mission here is not just to summarize this history, but to really guide you through the material, to understand the precise mechanics of his success.
Exactly. Why is Newton considered an industry pioneer? Why a fixture of Australian television since its official inception in 1956? And what does it even mean to be a record-breaking quadruple Gold Logie winner in that country?
Well, to start, I think we have to situate him within the cultural landscape.
Okay.
The sources confirm the sheer scope of his official recognition, and that speaks volumes, about the emotional connection the Australian public had with him.
So we're talking about the awards.
The awards, the honors, he was inducted into the Logie Hall of Fame, he secured 4 Gold Logies, and he held 2 very significant official honors. He was a member of the Order of the British Empire, or MBE, and then later a member of the Order of Australia, AM.
That really is the definition of a national icon, isn't it?
It is.
And when you look at that timeline active from 1951 to 2015, that isn't just a long career. It's one of the longest sustained careers of any television performer. Well, globally. You have to consider the sheer transformation of media within that time frame.
I mean, think about it. Starting in live, chaotic radio.
Right.
Surviving the introduction of black and white television, then adapting to color, to variety shows, to daytime programming, game shows, and then ultimately to high-production musical theater.
That kind of adaptability, that kind of longevity, it suggests an understanding of the audience that, frankly, very few of his contemporaries could ever match.
And understanding that trajectory, it means we have to look back to his origins.
Where he came from.
Exactly. He was born in 1938 in Fitzroy, which is a historic inner suburb of Melbourne, Victoria. His upbringing was grounded, and he was educated at St. Joseph's Marist Brothers Roman Catholic College.
And this religious grounding is actually a key detail, isn't it? It's highlighted in the sources.
It is. It says he was an active Roman Catholic throughout his life, and they note that in his younger years, he even seriously considered entering the priesthood. So this background, a blend of, Melbourne working-class roots and this institutional discipline, it perhaps provided the necessary ballast for navigating what was a very high-pressure, chaotic career in entertainment.
Okay, so let's unpack his professional foundation. It begins not on some glamorous television set, but in the rapid-fire world of post-war radio.
And what stands out immediately is just how incredibly young he was when he began earning money on the airwaves.
It's an immediate start, really.
The records show his very first paid radio appearance happened on 10 June 1952. He was still a schoolboy.
And the platform was Melbourne Station 3XY.
Yeah.
What was he doing?
Well, he was performing advertisements while dressed as a clown. That image, the future television legend starting out as a schoolboy clown reading ads. It's
Sure.
quite something.
And the sources reveal a very specific, almost accidental genesis for this career path.
Yes, it stemmed from a simple community broadcast. A program called Scouting Around was being recorded at his scout hall, and this initial exposure was apparently enough to hook him.
It's amazing how these small moments can define a life.
Indeed. And that initial appearance led very quickly to regular spots on a Saturday morning children's show, also on 3XY.
So he was working alongside other future media figures even then.
He was. People like Doug McKenzie, who would go on to be part of the famous comedy duo Zig and Zag, and the legendary disc jockey Stan Roth. This environment of live, unscripted interaction in children's broadcasting was the perfect crucible for developing the spontaneous skills he'd rely on for the rest of his life.
He moved past the clowning pretty quickly, though, into professional announcing.
Oh, very quickly. By May 1954, aged just 15, 3XY hired him as a junior announcer.
15, that's a rapid ascent.
Very. And within a year, by 1955, he was presenting a show called Melbourne Speaks.
Can you explain what that show was? What was the format?
Melbourne Speaks was essentially what you call a vox pop program.
Voice of the people.
Exactly. For listeners outside Australia, that's what it means. Newton would go out into the streets, specifically the Melbourne CBD, with a microphone, recording brief interviews and public opinions on different topics.
So he was right there on the front lines.
This early, direct engagement with the public, having to think on his feet, manage sound quality in busy environments, handle strangers' opinions, it was foundational. It honed that conversational style, the approachable demeanor, and the quick-witted flexibility that became his trademark.
He learned the rhythm of everyday Australians.
Which is absolutely vital for longevity in that market.
And that exposure, that training, it made him incredibly valuable when television finally arrived. And the sources show his radio connections were crucial for that move into the new medium.
Absolutely crucial. The Nine Network's owner, GTV9, they purchased the radio station 3AK in April 1961.
Right.
And this acquisition immediately created synergy. GTV9 personalities were basically mandated to host programs on 3AK.
And this cross-pollination is exactly how Bert Newton, who was already on television by then, deepened his relationship with his most important professional partner,
Graham Kennedy.
Graham Kennedy. They began hosting a 2-hour morning radio program together on 3AK. So while radio was the launch pad, the ultimate prize was television. The sources confirm Newton's move to TV began incredibly early.
1957, barely a year after Australian television officially started broadcasting.
He was at Melbourne's HSV7 hosting The Late Show. To put that in perspective, he was there essentially at the birth of the industry.
He was, and his early movements showed just how fluid the new medium was. He moved from HSV7 to GTV9 in early 1959 to host in Melbourne today.
But the pivotal moment for his entire career, the one that established his professional identity, was the start of his relationship with Graham Kennedy in Melbourne Tonight.
Or IMT, as it was known.
This is where the real chemistry was forged, wasn't it? How did this crucial collaboration begin?
Well, it started almost accidentally. It was a live commercial on IMT in 1959. Kennedy was the sophisticated, slightly anarchic king of variety television.
And Newton was the foil.
He was the warm, quick-witted foil, the working-class contrast to Kennedy's urbane wit. That initial commercial appearance led immediately to regular spots, and Newton was quickly groomed to assume occasional hosting duties when Kennedy was away.
The sources explicitly characterize this as the beginning of their lifelong association.
And that phrase, lifelong association, is key. This wasn't just a working relationship. It established a template for Australian television partnership, the straight man and the lovable sidekick.
What was it about their dynamic that worked so well?
Well, Kennedy and Newton were masters of the live, unscripted environment. Kennedy possessed this sharp, often slightly dangerous wit, pushing boundaries and controlling the chaos.
And Newton was the anchor.
He was the affable, reactive, often self-deprecating counterpoint who could pull the conversation back from the edge or amplify a joke with a perfect reaction. He was the anchor that allowed Kennedy the freedom to be truly spontaneous and outrageous.
A dynamic so successful it translated almost instantly to a national platform.
Exactly. From 1960 to 1961, Newton was central to the national iteration of IMT, which was called Graham Kennedy's Channel 9 show. The sources show just how quickly he became indispensable.
So when that national show was canceled in January 1962?
The Nine Network did not miss a beat. They immediately replaced it with a similar national variety show, the Channel 9 show. But this time,
Newton hosted it solo.
Solo. This is a critical point. Within 3 years of starting with Kennedy, he had successfully transitioned from sidekick to carrying his own national variety program. It demonstrates the network's faith in his immediate, powerful connection with the audience.
That early period, being on the ground floor of Australian television and partnering with its most dynamic personality, it absolutely set the template for the golden age of variety that followed.
It did.
And it also cemented his identity not just as a host, but as the ultimate sidekick and compare.
Which brings us squarely into the mid-70s, where he defined a role that is really unique to Australian media culture.
We're moving to the era between 1975 and 1983 on the Nine Network, dominated by The Don Lane Show. This is arguably the role that cemented his national celebrity in the eyes of the viewing public.
Newton was cast specifically as the sidekick and, crucially, as the barrel boy.
This term barrel boy might sound obscure internationally.
It might. It describes his physical role on the set. He was literally positioned behind a barrel or a desk, which provided a physical barrier and a permanent spot for him to react from, often silently or with a quick one-liner. The term barrel boy immediately evokes that image of constant availability for a spontaneous gag.
And the sources are clear that his ability to react instantaneously, delivering physical comedy, spontaneous humor, and often perfectly timed one-liners, made the dynamic between him and the American-born host Don Lane essential.
Lane provided the flash, and Newton provided the ground-level comic reality.
Right.
And this professional partnership gave rise to his most famous, enduring nickname, Moonface.
And the sources confirm that the name just stuck.
It did. And while it was clearly a reference to his face shape, it was always delivered and accepted affectionately, which really shows the high degree of goodwill he had accumulated.
Beyond the nickname, the role on Lane's show was defined by comedic performance. Newton would frequently appear in extremely outlandish costumes and perform highly recognizable celebrity send-ups.
He never took himself too seriously.
Never. And that warmth made the comedy land perfectly.
This is where we must pause for that fantastic anecdote that truly captures the pure, live, high-wire nature of that variety era.
You're talking about the Demis Roussos incident.
The Demis Roussos incident, right. So Newton was doing a full, elaborate impersonation of the famous Greek singer, who was a massive international star at the time.
He was mid-song, in full costume.
Giving a very committed performance of his send-up when Roussos himself, the real singer, was secretly brought onto the set and walked in on the performance.
Imagine the chaotic juxtaposition. The genuine star walking in on the comedic parody of himself, all happening live in front of a studio audience and a national audience watching at home.
Newton's immediate reaction, that split-second switch from performing the gag to managing the unbelievable reality of the situation, that is peak variety television. It's impossible to rehearse that kind of spontaneous combustion, and Newton thrived on it.
Moving beyond the foil role, this era also saw Newton consolidate his status as a compere, a master of ceremonies in his own right.
Yes, in 1976, he took over hosting duties for the amateur talent program, New Faces, replacing the long-running host Frank Wilson.
This was a critical step, wasn't it? It showcased his ability to smoothly manage a structured show while also interacting with nervous, often raw amateur talent.
And this version of New Faces was highly successful. It ran for almost a decade, until 1985. It highlighted his steadying presence and his genuine warmth toward budding performers.
However, it's important to note the sources mention a few attempts to sustain this success outside of the sidekick or compere role that were, less fruitful.
That's true. There was a less successful revival of New Faces in 1992. And during the transition period of the 1980s, the attempts to give him his own primary late-night show.
Like Tonight, with Bert Newton in '84.
Right, and the Bert Newton show on the 7 Network in 1989, they were short-lived.
These are moments of necessary perspective, I think. They show that simply transferring the IMT or Don Lane show format with Newton as the sole star didn't immediately click.
No.
After all that success, there was a period where he was facing a genuine career crossroads. Was the golden age of variety television truly over?
That perceived moment of transition leads us directly to his most crucial, career-defining strategic move.
The Good Morning Australia triumph.
Exactly. In 1992, at a moment when his late-night variety career seemed to be waning, Newton made the high-stakes decision to move away from the 9 Network, his professional home for so long, and join Network 10 to host the morning show.
It was a massive pivot, and it paid off immediately. The show was quickly renamed Good Morning Australia, or GMA.
And it didn't just succeed, it defined an era. It ran for an astounding 14 years, concluding in 2005.
This move revitalized his celebrity status, shifting him from the late-night king of comedy to the steady, warm presence for daytime viewers, a completely new audience.
An entire generation who might have been too young to remember the Don Lane days.
Right, and the sheer longevity of GMA speaks to how well he adapted to the required format.
The show was a successful blend. Interviews, live music, cooking demonstrations, and, critically, infomercials.
The sources also offer an interesting look behind the curtain regarding the pacing and production.
They do. The detail about the scheduling is fascinating. The show was broadcast truly live to air only on Mondays and Tuesdays.
And for the rest of the week.
It was recorded complete but then aired later. a sort of live-to-tape production.
This distinction is significant, isn't it?
It is. The pressure was still immense. They were recording a full, nonstop program. But that live-to-tape buffer likely offered a slight safety net compared to the constant daily pressure of pure live variety television, where any mistake or equipment failure was broadcast immediately.
And Newton's ability to maintain that polished, professional, yet warm demeanor across 14 years of daily production is a testament to his stamina.
Absolutely.
So once GMA finally concluded in 2005, Newton didn't retire. He immediately returned to the Nine Network in 2006.
Which demonstrates that his value as an anchor of Australian television remained undiminished. He transitioned seamlessly into new roles that utilized his immense popularity.
He took over hosting duties for a revised version of the classic game show Bert's Family Feud, which ran from 2006 to 2007.
A perfect vehicle for him. Structured, yet requiring constant, lighthearted interaction with nervous contestants.
And he also hosted 20 to 1 from 2006 until 2011, taking over from the much-loved Bud Tingwell.
And 20 to 1 was a highly popular countdown and retrospective format, allowing Newton to leverage his vast knowledge of popular culture and history. In 2007, he further demonstrated his retrospective capabilities by hosting What a Year with the comedian Julia Zamiro, where they took a humorous look back at significant historical years.
Even in his 70s, he continued to embrace television in new ways, even as a celebrity contestant.
The sources meticulously track his appearances on charitable game shows. He was on $1 Million Wheel of Fortune in 2008, where he successfully won the main game and secured over $3,000 for his chosen charity, the International Diabetes Institute.
And he appeared as a celebrity contestant on Millionaire Hot Seat in 2012, winning $5,000 for the charity SIDS and Kids.
These later appearances, they weren't necessary for his career, but they powerfully reinforce his commitment to the industry and his charitable work long after his status as an icon had been guaranteed.
Now, to fully appreciate his standing, we must turn to the institution with which Bert Newton became indelibly linked.
The Logie Awards.
Australia's most prestigious television honors. His history with the Logies began incredibly early, back in 1959.
But it's his sheer dominance, both in terms of winning and, crucially, hosting, that sets him apart from any other figure.
The list of accolades is formidable. The Gold Logie is the top public voted award for the most popular personality on Australian television.
And Newton won this coveted prize 4 times.
4 times. In 1979, 1981, 1982, specifically for his work on New Faces, and 1984. The sheer consistency of public affection required to win 4 of those in 6 years is remarkable.
Additionally, he secured 3 consecutive Best Compare Awards from 72 through 74 for his roles on In Melbourne Tonight and The Graham Kennedy Show.
And these were peer and industry awards, recognizing his technical proficiency as a host.
But the capstone of these achievements came in 1988 with his induction into the Logies Hall of Fame. That is the moment the industry officially acknowledges that a performer's contribution transcends individual shows or awards.
It's a recognition of lasting, fundamental impact.
It is.
It is the hosting record, however, that is truly staggering and likely will never be broken.
He hosted the Logie Award ceremony a total of 19 times. And critically, this included an unbroken, continuous run from 1968 to 1980.
The sources confirm he holds the record for both the most times hosted and the most continuous hosting streak. To be the master of ceremonies for the industry's biggest night for nearly 2 decades requires impeccable judgment, unwavering stamina, and total trust from the industry.
And when you are the host of a major live awards show for that many years, you are, by necessity, the person responsible for steering the ship when things go right.
But especially when they go spectacularly wrong. Our sources highlight 2 moments in particular that define his professionalism under intense live pressure.
The first is the highly publicized 1979 incident involving the boxing legend Muhammad Ali, who was a guest at the awards.
Newton, in his capacity as host, addressed Ali and used the phrase, "I like the boy."
Now, to give context, Newton intended this as an endearing, familiar term, something he often used as a catchphrase in a Colonel Sanders commercial.
But, as the sources detail, in the heat of the moment and across cultural lines, Ali immediately reacted with confusion, asking, "Did he call me Roy?"
The cultural implications of the word boy in addressing a black man were immediate, and Newton's intended endearment was instantly lost in translation and context. The confusion in the room was palpable.
The sources note that Don Lane, who was seated nearby, and other audience members, shouted to Newton to clarify, mistakenly thinking Ali had misheard boy as Roy.
So Newton, realizing the instant high-stakes tension and the magnitude of the misunderstanding, had to pivot instantly.
His recovery was a masterstroke of comic timing and self-deprecating deflection. He immediately declared that he would change my name, my religion, anything.
A brilliant, rapid reference to Ali's famous conversion to Islam and his change of name from Cassius Clay, using the situation to momentarily lighten the tension.
And what the sources ensure we understand is that this was not malicious, and the tension was quickly resolved.
Yes, they stress that Ali, realizing the non-malicious nature of Newton's comment, that it was meant endearingly, however misguided the phrase was in that moment, did not hold a grudge. The sources report the two men literally kissed and made up later on.
It shows his ability to recognize immediate danger in a live broadcast and use humor to diffuse a crisis.
And restoring control to the ceremony.
The second incident came earlier, in 1973, and it shows a different kind of composure. It involved the American actor Michael Cole, best known for the Mod Squad.
Cole came up to accept his award and was visibly intoxicated. The sources describe his thank you speech as barely coherent, culminating in the actor finishing his acceptance with a prominent expletive.
A completely unexpected and highly unprofessional moment on live national television.
And Newton's response is cited in the sources as a prime example of his command of the stage. He simply waited out the moment, allowed a classic pause to linger, and then, with perfect understatement, simply added the word congratulations.
He didn't try to make a joke at Cole's expense. He didn't apologize profusely. He just normalized the moment, acknowledging the acceptance while moving the show forward instantly.
That masterful, almost invisible correction speaks volumes about his professional discipline.
Just completing the Logie's timeline, the sources mentioned one final detail from 2006.
Yes, following the awards ceremony that year, Newton suffered a fall and sustained an injury, which was noticeably visible during subsequent episodes of Bert's Family Feud. A reminder that even the most seasoned professional is susceptible to the physical rigors of a demanding public life.
Beyond the industry awards, Newton received substantial formal recognition for his vast contribution to the arts and public life.
He did, confirming his status as a national treasure across both the imperial and Australian honor systems.
His imperial recognition came first.
Yes, he was appointed a member of the Order of the British Empire, the MBE, in 1979. The citation specifically recognized his extensive service to the performing arts. And this honor was conferred at a point when he was at the absolute peak of his variety television fame, right after his first gold Logie.
Then, in 2006, he was granted the higher Australian honor, being made a member of the Order of Australia, AM.
This reflected a much broader scope of service. It recognized not only his lifetime commitment to the entertainment industry as a presenter, actor, and comedian, but explicitly included his dedicated support for a wide range of medical research and charitable organizations. The AM recognized the civic dimension of his fame.
Other key recognitions underscore his deep connection to his hometown of Melbourne.
He was named the first Melbourne-born King of Moomba in 1978, which is a major cultural honor in Victoria. He was also named Victorian of the Year in 2008.
Perhaps the ultimate industry summation came in 2006. To mark 50 years of Australian television, Channel 9 ran a special retrospective called 50 Years, 50 Stars.
And Bert Newton was featured prominently and was, in fact, listed as the #1 Australian TV star of the past half-century.
That placement speaks directly to the profound and long-lasting nature of his influence on the entire medium.
We've spent considerable time detailing his mastery of radio and television, but his career trajectory must also include his extensive stage career. This transition from the chaotic, unscripted environment of live television to the disciplined structure of theatrical productions, it demonstrates a remarkable versatility.
That transition showed he was far more than just a quick-witted host. He was a genuine, trained actor who could handle major, long-running musical roles.
The sources list an impressive stage resume, focusing primarily on musical theater. He played Professor Marvel and the titular Wizard of Oz in The Wizard of Oz.
Right.
Cogsworth in Beauty and the Beast, Franz Liebkind in The Producers, a significant comedic role, and Max in The Sound of Music. These are major, demanding parts in high-profile productions.
His most demanding and notable later role was his nearly 3-year commitment as the wizard in the smash hit musical Wicked.
He began the celebrated run in November 2008, taking over the role in the Melbourne production. Poignantly, he stepped in following the sudden passing of the original Australian actor Rob Guest.
To be chosen to fill such an iconic role under those circumstances reflects the industry's high regard for his professionalism and his capacity to carry a major show.
That 3-year commitment was substantial. The production transferred to Sydney in 2009, and he continued the role on the national tour that began in January 2011.
Furthermore, the sources confirm he was part of the Australian cast that took Wicked to Singapore. That's not just an acting gig. That's a sustained, multi-year, multi-city professional commitment that requires immense discipline and physical endurance.
It's a huge shift from the spontaneous nature of his variety show roots.
Even after that significant run, he continued to seek out high-profile stage work.
He did. In July 2012, he joined the Melbourne cast of Annie for several weeks, taking on the role of President Roosevelt.
And from August 2013, he returned to the stage in John Frost's production of Grease the Musical, where he played the disc jockey Vince Fontaine.
What this lengthy stage career illustrates is a constant desire to evolve and challenge himself, proving that his star power could translate from the camera lens to the auditorium lights, connecting with audiences in a completely different but equally powerful way.
Shifting focus now, the sources provide a necessary glimpse into the personal side of his life, including his foundational family structure and the challenges he faced privately and in the public eye.
The centerpiece of his personal life was his marriage in 1974 to Patti McGrath. She was also a talented performer and someone he frequently worked with professionally.
A formidable partnership both on stage and off.
They had 2 children. Their son, Matthew, who followed his parents into the arts and became a successful actor in Australian films and dramas, and their daughter, Lauren, who married the Olympic swimmer Matt Welsh. The sources depict a supportive, enduring family unit.
However, the sources also require us to discuss a difficult period of significant personal adversity he navigated in the mid-1990s.
That's right. In 1993, he faced a severe financial crisis.
This challenge stemmed from a gambling problem, which the sources mentioned led him to the brink of bankruptcy and resulted in a very significant debt that totaled $1 million.
And when discussing a personal struggle of this magnitude, especially one faced entirely in the glare of the public eye, it is important to maintain a factual and sympathetic tone. This was a profound personal crisis that required immense resilience to overcome while maintaining a highly visible public career.
Indeed. It required extraordinary strength to continue working professionally and successfully manage that recovery, while his financial difficulties were public knowledge.
His ability to rebuild his career and public trust in the ensuing years, particularly through the sustained success of Good Morning Australia, is often seen as a quiet, powerful comeback story.
Reflecting that late career desire for self-exploration, the sources also note his participation in the television show Who Do You Think You Are? In 2020.
This program focused on tracing his family history, primarily looking into the lives of his father and maternal grandparents. This shows a man, late in his career, actively seeking to understand the foundations of his own identity.
Finally, we must review the serious health issues detailed in the sources, which required immense physical resilience in his later years.
The sources outline significant heart issues that began to surface in his 70s. In November 2012, he underwent quadruple heart bypass surgery.
This major procedure followed 2 prior hospital admissions earlier in the year, indicating a prolonged period of health struggle leading up to the operation.
Subsequently, he faced multiple repeated illnesses. In both March and April of 2017, he was hospitalized as he sought to recover from bouts of pneumonia. These recurrent health battles highlight the quiet, ongoing struggle he endured to maintain his health and his public commitments.
The most challenging health struggle occurred later in life. In late 2020, he contracted a severe toe infection.
Due to various complications and the severity of the infection, the sources confirm he required the surgical amputation of his leg below the knee in May 2021. This procedure and subsequent recovery must have been a profoundly challenging time for him and his family.
He passed away later that year, on 30 October 2021, at the age of 83 in Prahran, Victoria, bringing an end to that extraordinary 6-decade career.
Fittingly, a figure of his immense stature was honored by the state. He received a Victorian state funeral on 12 November 2021, held at St. Patrick's Cathedral in Melbourne. He was interred at the Cedars section of the Springvale Botanical Cemetery. This public outpouring and official recognition underscores the depth of the national mourning for a man considered family by many Australians.
To summarize the enduring impact of Albert Watson Newton, we must focus on that theme of sustained, radical versatility. He didn't just survive changing media landscapes, he mastered them.
He was a pioneer in early radio, the ultimate sidekick and host of variety television. He successfully engineered a massive transition to the steadiness of daytime programming with GMA, became a fixture of game shows, and then demonstrated his acting prowess in major theatrical musicals.
His importance as a figure who defined Australian television from its earliest black and white days right through to the 21st century simply cannot be overstated.
He was, as the sources reveal, recognized as a legend long before his death. The sheer volume of television tributes aired during his life, like The Best of Bert Newton in 2002 and Channel 9 Salutes Bert Newton in 2004, confirms that his place in history was cemented early and often.
His autobiography, Bert Newton's Own Story, published back in 1979, also stands as a key record of that foundational era of Australian popular culture.
It does.
This comprehensive review of his remarkable life brings us to our final thought for you. Given his foundational role in launching new talent on New Faces, his incredibly visible career that stretched across 6 decades, and his ability to survive professional setbacks and profound personal adversity. How did Bert Newton's relentless capacity to constantly adapt, from a schoolboy clown on radio to the beloved barrel boy, the steady daytime compere, and finally to a theatrical stage wizard, how did that set the definitive standard for celebrity longevity in an industry notoriously fixated on always finding the next fleeting new star?
It is a question of enduring talent versus temporary fame. A fascinating measurement of resilience and adaptability, indeed.
Thanks for listening.